this video, you will learn how to use Expedite software to look up commodity codes and UK's relevant export measures. Commodity codes, or HS codes, are internationally recognized reference numbers used in import and export documentation. They identify specific goods and are used to determine relevant export and import measures and payable customs duties. An incorrect commodity code can lead to customs delays and fines, or even the goods being unable to reach the buyer. Expedite software is integrated with HMRC's Trade Tariff tool to help you choose the best commodity code for your product and to give you up-to-date information on applicable measures. Luke from Carpets for You, who is exporting UK-made carpets to Spain, will show you how to use Expedite to do that. Once you're logged into Expedite, click Look up Customs Codes on the main page. Now, choose a chapter that best describes your goods from a drop-down and click Select My Chapter. For example, Luke exports carpets, so he needs to choose a chapter that relates to carpets. That will be chapter 57, Carpets and other textile floor coverings. Click Select My Chapter. You can also look up the relevant notes for the chapter, which would help you in completing your customs declaration. Click on the button See Chapter's Notes to do that. In Luke's case, he exports textile carpets with the textile part exposed when in use. So this is the correct chapter. Now, Luke needs to choose a heading from a subset of headings for chapter 7. So the carpets Luke exports are woven, not tufted. So the heading he should choose is heading 5702. Now click Select My Heading. And for the final part of the commodity code, Luke needs to choose a commodity from this drop-down that describes the goods he's exporting most closely. Let's see. That's quite a long list. So, we know that Carpets for You produces carpets that are made of wool with pile weave or pile construction or knotted weave, which is made up. In this case, made up means ready to use. So, Luke needs to choose the commodity that reflects all these characteristics. And when you choose the commodity, you want to make sure that it's as precise as possible. If it's not precise enough, then due to the way the HMRC's data is set up, you will likely get an error. In our case, we need the commodity 5702419000 in pile construction made up. So that's not Axminster carpets, so it would be other. Now, click Select My Commodity. And as your commodity code, Luke will need this code for export declarations. You can watch our video on CTS declarations to see how this code is entered. Next, Luke has to look up the UK's export measures to see whether there are any restrictions or additional documentation he needs to bear in mind when exporting the goods under this commodity code. To do that, click Show Me Export Measures. On this page, we have a drop-down of commodities we've looked up previously. Let's choose the one we just looked up. Also, here we have the tool for calculating duties and taxes, which we used in the previous video. For now, we want to look at the export measures. Here, we have a list of measure conditions, measure types, legal acts, and footnotes. What does that mean? There are several types of export measures applicable to most UK exports. They can relate to payable duties, presentation of certificates and export licenses, export control sanctions and trade restrictions, and so on. And these measures come with conditions attached to them, which in turn stem from the legislation. Lastly, the HMRC has helpfully provided footnotes about additional information to bear in mind. As the person responsible for exporting the carpets, Luke needs to know all the applicable export measures to gauge the additional export costs and workload. And other people in his company do as well. For instance, the sale managers and the project managers need to know whether they should adjust the price of the carpet and the overall project budgets due to the applicable measures. The legal department needs to have a list of the legal acts applicable to the goods exported by the employer. And with the help of Expedite, Luke can retrieve all this information in a convenient PDF report. Here's how he can do that. First, he has to reveal the applicable measure conditions, measure types, legal acts, and footnotes by clicking all the relevant arrows. There's a lot of data here, but don't be alarmed. It will all make sense. So, depending on your circumstances, some measures listed here will apply to your exports, and the notes from HMRC will help you figure out which codes to include in your CDS declaration. For example, this measure is related to the presentation of an EASA certificate or its equivalent. This is necessary when exported goods are related to aircrafts, and it certifies that the product is newly manufactured or has adequate maintenance performed on it. In case of Luke's company, it could be that he's exporting carpets to be used in airplanes, for example. For simplicity's sake, let's say that he's not doing that. The next measure relates to authorization for end use on ships and platforms and describes a document that's needed in such cases, which is an authorization decision. Let's say Luke's carpets won't be used on ships and platforms, so this measure doesn't apply to us. The next few measures stem from the laws that came into force due to the invasion of Ukraine. Since Luke's company neither sources his carpets from any Ukrainian territories nor sells to them, they don't apply in this case. And this measure relates to the export of cultural goods and specifies that in these circumstances, an exporter needs an export license. Carpets can be easily classified as cultural goods. However, let's say that's not the case here. Let's scroll down. What we have here is the requirement to complete a CDS statement or CDS waiver that goods are not classified as cultural goods. The applicable CDS code is YE903. Luke needs to make a note of this code to make sure he enters it correctly when completing a CDS declaration. The next measure relates to goods of Russian or Belarusian origin. Had Luke's carpets originated from Russia or Belarus, he'd need to verify that his goods have been sourced before this date. Otherwise, he won't have been allowed to export. But since Luke's goods are UK produced and sourced, this measure doesn't apply. And these two measures relate to a law called the Washington Convention, which regulates the trade of endangered species. If Luke's carpets were made using the wool from the species included in this law, he would need to present a document confirming compliance with the convention and declare it on his CDS declaration using a specific code. If not, he needs to declare that as well, but he would need to use the Y900 code specified here. And here we have a list of types of measures that we just went through, such as additional documents, duties, and export restrictions. We know that legal departments need this information, which is why we included it in the Expedite software. And here we have the applicable footnotes from HMRC. Again, these footnotes are related to the UK export measures we went over earlier. For instance, there is one about EASA certificate, and there are also those about exporting to North Korea, Ukraine, and Russia. And here we have a list of legal acts. Due to the way the HMRC data is structured, some of these codes don't really contain any useful data, so Luke can skip over them. These legal acts, such as CITES or the Washington Convention, contain the measures we just went over. Again, Luke's legal department will need them and the links to them, such as this one, to verify what they need to verify. As you can see, Expedite provides a very comprehensive overview of various UK export measures applicable to specific commodity goods. To save this report, Luke can export it as a PDF by clicking Download PDF Report. As you can see, we get a report with the commodity code in the title. Let's open it. Here, we have an entire list of measure conditions, measure types, footnotes, and legal acts with the links for your convenience. Now, wasn't that so much better than having to look up complex laws and regulations? With Expedite, you get access to all the UK export measures provided by the HMRC that relate to your commodity code. We are also working on implementing access to import measures imposed by different countries on UK goods. In the next video, we are going to show you how to complete CN22 and CN23 declarations and save them as templates with Expedite. We hope you found this tutorial very helpful. If you want to stay on top of export news and Expedite updates, please subscribe to our channel and our newsletter via the link in the description. Thank you!